Oh my goodness. Um, I've done child care for 25 years. So Parker was completely different. I mean, there was no baby proofing for Parker. Um, he would end up, we had a railing, and somehow he would slide something over and he would crawl on the other side and end up 30 feet up in the air while Madeline's just trying to play with the VCR. That was a no no, you know? I guess I was very naive. I didn't know that. I thought that you went to the school when there was like a learning disability and they tried to figure it out, that sort of thing. I didn't know that for a learning disability, you needed to take him to the doctors and somehow they figure it out that way. I thought it was a school thing. So I was very naive. I had no idea. So I took him in, and it just so happens that there was a different doctor on call that saw him that day. And of course, I had a ton of daycare kids with me, and they're all coloring on the floor. And Parker's interacting with them while we're trying to talk about what the school said and everything else. And he goes, um, he shows signs of autism. I'm like, what? And then they did referrals. And about a year and a half later, he was diagnosed with autism. Mr. T, he was on it. Would I would see him every day after school. I would pick the kids up, so we would have a conference every day. So that made it easy, and I was able to connect, but yet he could be his own person. And Parker's a twin, so he had Maddie, which we relied on Maddie probably way too much. She would translate what he was supposed to do for homework, what he was supposed to bring home, and they decided, to put him in separate classes, although they still had a lot of the same classes, or she knew what was going on. And then Mr. T would check in with teachers, and so it was very challenging, but we were able to have something that worked really well. We met Mr. Curley here. Mr. Curley, I felt so bad. I love that man. He's awesome. But we had our first meeting, and Miss Esther and Miss Gabrielle and Parker's DDS worker, and I don't know how many other people, but he thought it was a simple get to know you meeting, which it was supposed to be, but things that went so poorly the last, I don't know, year and a half or so, that I was so naive. I didn't know what I needed to get somebody to understand that he can't organize. You can't give him papers. They'll never make it home. They'll end up in his pocket and under his bed. And there's so many other things that he can't do, but there's so many things that he can do.
What is your biggest fear when you think of your child?
Oh my goodness, that somehow I failed him. That, I've worked so hard and I've checked in and made sure that everything is taken care of, or, reminding him that he needs to take care of things that it won't click and he won't have a place to go in 5 years, or he won't be able to have his dreams met.
What's your favorite activities to do?
Just be lazy, solve some puzzles, and play video games.
What do you wish people would understand about you?
That I'm not the same as another student. That I have special needs that need to be taken care of.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I see myself living by myself, playing video games, having a job, but we'll get there sooner or later.
Do you feel like you were treated differently
I don't really care if I'm treated differently. It's just I need
But
I
do you
need
feel like you are treated differently?
I know I am, but it doesn't really seem like it. It just seems like they're actually trying to help me.
What was it like working with Parker?
Working with Parker was always entertaining. When he first arrived at Benson, he struggled, and he struggled to fit in. Socially, things were hard. He's not a great communicator. He tends to be content, sort of fading into the background. You know, you see him sitting in the hallway alone on the floor. So just trying to figure out where he was mentally, you know, is bigger of a challenge to figure out where he was academically. And he had arrived as a sophomore, so that's tricky, trying to integrate a kid who already has some obstacles into a brand new environment, which happens to be a big, busy, stinky public high school. And having spoken with his family, things were not good at Roosevelt, so that was another obstacle. He already had a fairly negative relationship with school established, which is common for kids with disabilities or kids that struggle. So that was how it started. And it took some time to build trust, and not just with Parker, but with his family and his advocates. But we were able to do that and move forward, and it worked out.
Hi. Autism. When I was in college, the definition of autism was very different than it is now. For years, many people with needs probably went undiagnosed. Now we recognize autism as a very large spectrum of a mental condition. There are very high functioning autistic people. There are very low functioning. And it depends on different areas of their skills. Some communicate better than others. Some have repetitive anxiety things that they have to deal with their nerves. The very high end of the spectrum, the Asperger's individuals, will often be extremely intelligent, sometimes very specific knowledge in one area, but they're very socially awkward, have trouble reading faces or understanding the body language, and have trouble communicating as well. So yeah, it's a wide continuum of mental needs. A lot of it has to do with communication and the inability to socially interact with each other.
To be honest, I don't know what autism is, but I've seen kids around school with autism, and they seem like pretty solitary people. They seem like they have good characters, but don't really know how to behave around crowds and don't really know how to interact with people. So,
Autism is a human disability equally valued as those who do not experience the same adversities these strong few do.